I welcome you all students for today's science class. We completed term 1. This is term 2. In today's class we will see unit 1, heat and temperature. So what is temperature? The measurement of warmness or coldness of a substance is known as its temperature. So you shiver when it is cold outside and we all sweat when it is hot outside. But how can you measure those weather temperatures? Temperature is involved in many aspects of our daily life, including our own bodies and health, the weather. In today's class, we will see what instrument is used to measure the temperature. Temperature is a measure of the average kinetic energy of the particles in an object. Temperature is related to how fast the atoms within a substance are moving. So, temperature is nothing but the measurement of warmness or coldness of a substance. Next is temperature units. There are 3 units which are used to measure the temperature. So we have degree, Celsius, Fahrenheit and Kelvin. Degree Celsius. Celsius is written as degree, then a capital C and read as degree. For example, 20 degrees Celsius. It is read as 20 degree Celsius. Celsius is called as centigrade as well. So, we all know, right? We are all familiar with this degree Celsius. This is a unit of temperature. The next is Fahrenheit. Fahrenheit is written as like this, capital F with a degree and then followed by capital F. For example, 25 degree Fahrenheit. So it is read as 25 degree Fahrenheit. Next is Kelvin. Kelvin is written as capital K. Here we do not write any degree. It is just capital K. For example, 100 K. It is read as 100 Kelvin. The SI unit of temperature is Kelvin. So these are the 3 units for temperature: degree Celsius, Fahrenheit and Kelvin. Measuring temperature. To measure the temperature, we use an instrument called as thermometer. Thermometer is the most common instrument used to measure temperature. There are various kinds of thermometers. Some of them are glass tubes which look thin and are flattened with some kind of liquid. So the liquid may be mercury or alcohol. So why mercury or alcohol is used in thermometer? Mostly alcohol and mercury are used in thermometers as they remain in liquid form even when a change of temperature in them. So we already saw mercury is the only substance which remain liquid at room temperature, right? So mercury or alcohol is used in the thermometer for this particular reason, because they remain in liquid form even when a change of temperature in them. A small change in the temperature causes change in volume of a liquid. We measure this temperature by measuring expansion of a liquid in thermometer. So we all know, when a thermometer is kept for a person having fever, the mercury in a thermometer expands, right? This is because in a thermometer, when the liquid, that is the mercury or alcohol, gets heated, it expands, and when it is cooled down, it contracts. So this is used to measure the temperature using the thermometer. Properties of mercury. Its expansion is uniform. For equal amount of heat, it expands by equal length. It is opaque and shining. It does not stick to the sides of the glass tube. It is a good conductor of heat. It has a high boiling point, 357 degrees Celsius, and a low freezing point, minus 39 degrees Celsius. Hence, a wide range of temperatures can be measured using a mercury thermometer. So, these are the properties of mercury. So, for this property only, the mercury is used in thermometers because it has a high boiling point and low freezing point. It is a good conductor of heat. It does not stick to the sides of the glass tube. It is opaque and shining. It expands uniformly. Next is properties of alcohol. The freezing point of alcohol is less than minus 100 degrees Celsius. So, it can be used to measure very low temperatures. Its expansion per degree Celsius rise in temperature is very large. It can be colored brightly and hence is easily visible. So these are all the properties of alcohol, and for this reason only they are using alcohol in the thermometer. Next we will see the types of thermometers. There are different types of thermometers for measuring the temperature of different things like air or body, food and many other things. Among these, the commonly used thermometers are clinical thermometer and laboratory thermometer. So we all know clinical thermometer, right? Clinical thermometer is used in hospitals. So these thermometers are used to measure the temperature of a human body at home, clinics and hospitals. We all also will have a clinical thermometer in our home to measure the body temperature, and when we get fever and we go to hospitals, they will measure a body temperature using this clinical thermometer. All clinical thermometers have a kink that prevents the mercury from flowing back into the tube. When the thermometer is taken out of the patient's mouth so that the temperature can be noted conveniently. So, in a thermometer, there will be a kink. It is presented because to prevent the mercury from flowing back into the tube when the thermometer is taken out of the patient's mouth. Okay, so if it flow back into the tube, the temperature cannot be noted. That is, the expansion of mercury cannot be noted if it flows back into the tube once when it is taken out of the patient's mouth. So a kink will be present in order to prevent the flow of mercury back into the tube. There are temperature scales on either side of the mercury thread, one in Celsius scale and the other in Fahrenheit scale. So here in this picture you can see, so this is the mercury and here we have the readings on both the sides of the mercury thread. This is the mercury thread. So one is in Celsius and the other is in Fahrenheit. Since the Fahrenheit scale is more sensitive than the Celsius scale, body temperature is measured in Fahrenheit only. A clinical thermometer indicates temperature for a minimum of 35 degrees Celsius or 94 degrees Fahrenheit to a maximum of 42 degrees Celsius or 108 degrees Fahrenheit. Precautions to be followed while using a clinical thermometer. So the thermometer should be washed before and after use, preferably with an antiseptic solution. So this we have noticed in hospitals. Before and after using the clinical thermometer, they will use with antiseptic solution. Jerk the thermometer a few times to bring the level of mercury down. So when we keep the thermometer for a person having fever, there will be a rise in temperature, right? For a person having fever, the temperature rises, right? So the mercury also expands, showing a rise in temperature. So in order to bring it down, the mercury level, we need to jerk the thermometer a few times. Before use, the mercury level should be below 35 degrees Celsius, or in Fahrenheit it should be 94 degree Fahrenheit. Do not hold the thermometer by its bulb. So we should not hold it by its bulb. Keep the mercury level along your line of sight and then take the reading. So when we take the reading from the thermometer, we should keep the mercury level along the line of sight, straight to our eyes. Handle the thermometer with care. If it hits against some hard object, it may break because it is made up of glass. Do not place the thermometer in a hot flame or in the hot sun. We should not place it in a hot flame or hot sun. Next is laboratory thermometers. Laboratory thermometers are used to measure the temperature in school and other laboratories for scientific research. They are also used in the industry as they can measure temperatures higher than what clinical thermometers can record. The stem and the bulb of a lab thermometer are longer when compared to that of a clinical thermometer, and there is no kink in the lab thermometer. So we saw in the clinical thermometer a kink will be present to prevent the flow of mercury back into the bulb once it is taken from the patient's mouth, but in lab thermometers kink is not present. A laboratory thermometer has only the Celsius ranging, whereas in the clinical thermometer it will be in Celsius as well as in Fahrenheit, ranging from minus 10 degrees Celsius to 110 degree Celsius. Precautions to be followed while using a laboratory thermometer. Do not tilt the thermometer while measuring the temperature. Place it upright. Note the reading only when the bulb has been surrounded by the substance from all sides. Difference between clinical thermometer and laboratory thermometer. So clinical thermometer is scaled from 35 degrees Celsius to 42 degrees Celsius, or from 94 degree Fahrenheit to 108 degree Fahrenheit, whereas the laboratory thermometer only has the Celsius scale. So it is scaled from minus 10 degrees Celsius to 110 degree Celsius. In clinical thermometer, mercury level does not fall on its own, as there is a kink near the bulb to prevent the fall of mercury level, whereas in the laboratory thermometer kink is not present. Therefore, the mercury level falls on its own as no kink is present. Temperature can be read after removing the thermometer from armpit or mouth. Temperature is read while keeping the thermometer in the source of temperature. Example, a liquid or anything. To lower the mercury level in the clinical thermometer, checks has to be given because kink is present. Therefore, it will not automatically come down. Whereas in the laboratory thermometer, there is no kink present. So, we don't need to jerk to lower the mercury level. In clinical thermometer, it is used for taking the body's temperature. So, clinical thermometer is used to take the body temperature, whereas the laboratory thermometer is used to take temperature in laboratory. Next is we have this digital thermometer. There is a lot of concern over the use of mercury in the thermometers. Mercury is a toxic substance and it is very difficult to dispose of if a thermometer breaks. So, the advanced model is a digital thermometer. These digital thermometers are available which do not use mercury. So, in order to replace this clinical thermometer, they have introduced this digital thermometers. In digital thermometers, there is no mercury. Instead of mercury, it has a sensor which can measure the heat coming out from the body directly, and from that they can measure the temperature of the body, and it will also display the temperature. So digital thermometers are mainly used to take the body temperature. So here you can see it is displaying, and at the tip, instead of mercury, they will be having a sensor which will measure the heat coming from the body and will display the measurement of the temperature. Scales of thermometers. So we saw the units of temperature. This is the scales of thermometers. The first one we saw is Celsius scale. Celsius scale is present in laboratory thermometer and as well as in clinical thermometer. Celsius is a common unit of measuring temperature as we saw before, which is termed after a Swedish astronomer Andreas Celsius in 1742. Before that, it was known as centigrade, as thermometers using this scale are calibrated from freezing point of water. 0 degrees Celsius to 100 degrees Celsius is boiling point of water. In Greek, centium means 100 and gradus means steps. Both words make it centigrade and later it became Celsius. Next is Fahrenheit scale. Fahrenheit scale is present only in clinical thermometer. Fahrenheit is a common unit to measure human body temperature. It is termed after the name of a German physicist, Daniel Gabriel Fahrenheit. Freezing point of water is taken as 32 degree Fahrenheit and boiling point is 212 degree Fahrenheit. Thermometers with Fahrenheit scale are calibrated from 32 degree Fahrenheit to 212 degree Fahrenheit. The next scale is Kelvin scale. Kelvin scale is termed after Lord Kelvin. It is the SI unit of measuring temperature and written as capital K, also known as absolute scale, as it starts from absolute zero temperature. Temperature in Celsius scale can be easily converted to Fahrenheit and Kelvin scale. So here you can see the difference of Fahrenheit scale, Celsius scale and Kelvin scale. So the boiling point of water in three different scales are 212 degree Fahrenheit, 100 degrees Celsius, 373.15 Kelvin. The freezing point of water is 32 degree Fahrenheit, 0 degree Celsius. In Kelvin, it is 273.15 Kelvin. So, this is the boiling point and freezing point of water under three different scales. The relation between Fahrenheit scale and Celsius scale are Fahrenheit minus 32 by 9 is equal to Celsius by 5. And then Kelvin is equal to 273.15 plus Celsius. So this is the relationship between Fahrenheit scale and Celsius scale. The equivalence between principal temperature scales are given for some temperatures. in Celsius scale, Fahrenheit scale and Kelvin scale. So the boiling point of water is 100 degrees Celsius, 212 degree Fahrenheit, 373.15 Kelvin. Freezing point of water is 0 degrees Celsius, 32 degree Fahrenheit, 273.15 Kelvin. Mean temperature of human body is 37 degrees Celsius, 98.6 degree Fahrenheit, 310.15 Kelvin. Average room temperature is 72 degrees Celsius, 23 degree Fahrenheit and 296.15 Kelvin. I hope you all understood about temperature and thermometer and different types of thermometer and scales of thermometers. So now we will do a recap of what we learned. We learned what is a temperature. The measurement of warmness or coldness of a substance is known as its temperature. And temperature units are degrees Celsius, Fahrenheit and Kelvin. For measuring temperature, we use an instrument called as thermometer. And in thermometer, alcohol and mercury are used in thermometer. Because of this reason, they remain in liquid form even with a change of temperature in them. And we saw the types of thermometers. So the commonly used thermometers are clinical thermometers and laboratory thermometers. Clinical thermometers are used in clinics, hospitals and home to measure the human body temperature. And in clinical thermometer we have a mercury and we have a kind present to prevent the flow back of mercury into the bulb when a thermometer is taken out of the patient's mouth. So clinical thermometer has both the scales. On one side it has the Celsius scale, on the other side it has the Fahrenheit scale. And the clinical thermometer indicates temperature from a minimum of 35 degrees Celsius or 94 degree Fahrenheit to a maximum of 42 degrees Celsius or 108 degree Fahrenheit. Next is the laboratory thermometers. These thermometers are used in lab for scientific research purpose. They only have the Celsius scale and it has a ranging from minus 10 degrees Celsius to 110 degree Celsius. Next is the digital thermometer. This is the advancement of the clinical thermometer. In clinical thermometer, mercury will be present. So since mercury is a very toxic substance and it is very difficult to dispose of if a thermometer breaks, they introduce this digital thermometers. These digital thermometers do not have mercury. They have a sensor which will measure the heat coming out from the body directly, and from that we can measure the temperature of the body. It will be displayed as you can see in this. Next we saw the scales of thermometers. We have three scales: a Celsius scale, Fahrenheit scale and the Kelvin scale. And we also saw the relationship between them. I hope you all understood. Assignment: why do we jerk a clinical thermometer before we measure the body temperature? Why do we use mercury in thermometers? Thank you.